Hey everybody, Tim Gresh here with another Selle SMP video. This time I will be covering the F and the VT series saddles, go in depth, discuss all of the variations, along with Rocco here. He has sat in on many bike fits and actually knows a lot about these seats, so he can attest to my knowledge here. Hopefully by the end of this, you will know whether or not these are a saddle for you within the Selle SMP range. One big thing about these seats to know is that they are flat across the top. Now, a lot of the Selle SMPs have the curvature down the middle, just like this Dracon, whereas all of these are pretty much flat across the top. Okay, that's the big difference. So we're going to get into all these here. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I'm a small business here in Southeastern PA, seeing where my YouTube channel goes. So give me a like, subscribe. It will help out. So let's get started. Now, to understand these saddles, we can first focus on these two right here. Once we understand these, the rest will sort of fall into place because all the other saddles are just variations of these two. So we've got the F30 and the F30C. The F30 is a long saddle. F30C is a shortened version of that. Now, there's three things that I love about these saddles. The first one is the cutout. So we have a long cutout, a lot of good pressure relief. You can kind of move around the seat forward and back and get that nice relief. The second thing that I like is the tumblehome. So I did make a whole video on this topic of tumblehome. Tumblehome is the rate of slope down the sides. Definitely check that out if you have not already. But this has good tumblehome so that when you're sitting on the seat, you don't feel like your leg is getting cut in by the back of the seat, which is something that I see a lot and get feedback from customers when they are on like a specialized power saddle or all the different variations of that saddle that are out on the market right now, that kind of like short saddle. They tend not to have a lot of tumblehome. I typically pick on the specialized power saddle because it's the most popular one out there, but it doesn't have a whole lot of tumblehome and it will tend to kind of jam in or cut into the back of the hamstrings. That's kind of the best way I can describe it. That doesn't happen with this saddle, so I like it. The third thing that I like about these saddles is the indents on the back, which is located here and here. It's hard to see on this seat, but I'm going to show you on this next one. This is a variation of the F30 with less padding, and you can kind of see in the back these indents. So, back there. So what these indents do is take pressure points off the pelvis and make the seat that much more comfortable. It's actually pretty surprising. When you look at the seat, you would think that you would just get maybe your standard feel of most flat saddles that maybe look like this. But when you sit on the seat, it's a lot different. It's way more comfortable than you would think. Part of that are those indents in the back. So that's really cool. So the F30C, the compact version, has all those same features of the F30 that I just described, but because it's shorter, the cutout runs the full length. My wife has this on her mountain bike and she absolutely loves it. She also has a variation of this on her indoor trainer bike, and we also just put one on her gravel bike as well. This is a great women's saddle. I've put a lot of women on this bike. A lot of it started with my wife, her loving it from the get-go, started using it with more female riders, and it's developed a pretty big following amongst my customers. Not just the F30C, but other variations that I'll get into, but really good saddle for women. This would also be a good saddle for men if you like that compact length saddle. Again, it's going to feel a little bit like the F30, just a shortened version. This would also be a good alternative to the specialized power saddle because it has a similar length, so you get that compact feel, but you have that nice tumblehome down the side, so it might feel a little bit better. Personally, I have an F30 on my mountain bike. I've had it on my mountain bike for about 6 years now, and I love this seat. This is my favorite mountain bike saddle. I've had a lot of other customers report to me that they really like it on their mountain bike. It also does well as a gravel saddle, and it can be used as a road saddle as well. That's fine, but definitely shines on mountain bike and gravel. I've done all sorts of crazy rides on this saddle. Recently, I did a 3-day mountain bike race, and I knew I was going to be filming this video. So during the ride, I kind of thought to myself, what do I like about this seat? So I can kind of like explain it to you. And Obviously, number one, like I said earlier, it's just the overall comfort. I was in the saddle for about 5.5 hours and it felt good the whole time. The other thing too is that this ride had a lot of climbing, a lot of steep stuff, and you had to really kind of slide forward in order to keep your front wheel from getting off the ground, rain, mud all day. And it gave me so much room to move around. So this is just an awesome mountain bike saddle. So now that we've discussed these two, let's start talking about some of the variations. This one here is the F30 CSI. This is just simply an unpadded F30C. No padding, hard saddle. I put this on my wife's bike and she said it felt great. Felt just like the F30. She has good padding on our cycling shorts. In fact, we might even end up putting this on her mountain bike. It wasn't that off-putting, so I was surprised by that. This will just be covered by a microfiber or a leather, and then just a hard shell underneath. Evo 30C, this is a newer model, and this moves away from the typical construction of a Selle SMP. They're newer design, newer materials, a little bit lighter. Put this on my wife's bike. Felt just like these two here. Same shape, everything. Visually, it does have a little bit bigger cutout. Doesn't seem to be a massive change in the overall feel, but it does have a little bit more cutout, the Evo 30C. But I would say this would be a good option if you just want a lighter version of this shape. Now, we also have the F20. So the F20 is just a narrow version of the F30. You can see the difference there. So more narrow. I've had this in my shop for years and I've had customers try it. No one has liked it so far. It's just very, very narrow. This is for a specific type of person and that person has not seen me yet. So I have not found anybody that has liked this yet. So I'd probably say avoid the F20. It's super narrow. Also, there is a compact version of the F20. I would say the same thing about that. Very narrow. I wouldn't recommend it overall. Now, all the F-Series saddles have kind of a dense, firm padding. They're kind of performance-oriented. The VT series, which is the next saddles we're going to get into, these have the more kind of cushy padding, and they're also a little bit less expensive. So first off, we got the VT30. Great saddle. Everything that you can expect out of like an F30, but more cushy padding, just a little bit more forgiving. Great saddle. I always keep it here. I have customers that love this thing. Next is the VT30C, compact version of the VT30. This is an awesome women's saddle. This is probably my top women's saddle right now. Super comfortable, gives you that feel of the F30C, but just a little bit more forgiving. Now, I did say earlier how I don't really like the F20 and the F20C because they're so narrow, but I do have a VT20 here. This is actually the VT20C. The reason I have it is because it has the thicker padding on it, it kind of bulks the saddle out a little bit to where it's not quite as narrow and intrusive as the F20 saddles are. So this saddle actually has its place. This would be good for someone that maybe has a little bit more narrow pelvis and they just feel like the F30C is a little bit big. So this one isn't too bad. Now, I did put this on my wife's bike and she actually did not like it. She could feel the difference. So it is more narrow, of course, but not so narrow where it's in this kind of territory here. So the VT20C, I would consider as probably a good option to consider, despite the fact that I don't recommend the F20s. Now, finishing up here, there are gel options. So there will be, and this is specifically on the VT side of things, you'll have a VT30 gel, VT30C gel, VT20C gel, and so on. So is this something that's worth it? I get that question in the comments quite often. And I will say it is a good thing. We're kind of splitting hairs at this point. So my advice to you, if I'm going to keep it really simple, just stick with the standard VT. You're going to be okay, probably. But I do keep here at the shop demo saddles and stock the gel variants because I have had situations where, for example, and particularly female customers, where they went on the, say, the VT30C, felt good, but just a little bit too much pressure here and maybe in the back. And that's actually exactly where the gel is. So they actually add the gel right around there on either side and also a little bit in the back. Just kind of took a little bit of that edge off of the saddle and made it that much more comfortable. So the gel is something that I do find useful as a fitter and I do utilize it. But I would say for the most part, it's maybe splitting hairs. I think the customers that use those gel saddles in those situations probably would have eventually gotten used to the VT, but the gel definitely made the saddle better out of the gate, and it's just sort of like, why not? So there you go, my overview of the F and VT series saddles. Hope you found this helpful. Please like and subscribe to the channel and enjoy every ride.